This is Atlanta Pure Sports Talk Rankination, bringing you scores and highlights from today's top 25 college scoreboard and any notable stories to tell. We had two local teams, Georgia State and Georgia Tech, playing early today at 12 o'clock. Georgia State was down 10-7 after the first quarter, but after that, they were down way more than that until the end of the game, which it ended up being 41-7. No contest for NC State Wolfpack. Georgia Tech goes down to South Florida at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa to lose to South Florida. This game was back and forth pretty much the whole game, but in the end, South Florida lay victorious due to numerous mistakes by the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They led a 419-yard rushing attack from Georgia Tech by Taquan Marshall and Tobias Oliver, all for naught. The Georgia Tech was driving with a chance to restore a 10-point lead before Quay Searcy fumbled inside the USF 15, and Sawtell recovered the loose ball at the 12. From then on, it was all South Florida's way. It went all South Florida's way. The Yellow Jackets just couldn't muster anything after that. Well, not to take anything away from South Florida, they have a pretty darn good football team down there. See, after finishing the past two seasons ranked in the top 25, the Bulls were hoping to show that their 23-4 record since the start of 2016 isn't a fluke, and they're being built for long-term success. They were impressive on the ground. They rushed for a whopping total of 224 on the ground. They amassed 426 yards of total offense, which in Georgia Tech, that was all given up by Georgia Tech's defense, which was just awful. I hadn't seen Georgia Tech's defense this awful in a long time. Ted Roof is not the defensive coordinator there anymore. I don't know. I have no idea why. Maybe he went on to bigger and brighter things like he always does, but he always seems like he comes home to roost. But anyway, Georgia Tech, they have 419 yards on the ground, and there was one pass play in the game, and then for the second time late in the game, Taquan Marshall decides he wants to throw the ball, and it was awful. It was like backyard football. I've never seen anything that crappy. It gets tipped at the line of scrimmage. It goes way up in the air, and there's no Georgia Tech defensive guy around that recognizes it's in the air so long that they can't go over there and try to bat it out of the air or something. But it lands right in the arms of a South Florida Bull, and he continues to go upfield for a little ways, and then they get the ball back. And I think that was the turning point of the game. But Tech still had their chances, and they didn't come through. Good win for them, bad loss for us. We're 1-1, and they have a lot of work to do. I'm telling you what, I'm really getting sick of Paul Johnson and his BS. We have two 4-star recruits on the whole team, and a couple of 3 or 4 3-star recruits, and that's it. I don't know what's going on here. We need to get Georgia Tech football back, and we need to quick. This year I think is over with since we're 1-1 now. I mean, we could go to a bowl game, but anybody could go to a bowl game. Anything's better than last year's deplorable year we had. We weren't even 500. So shame on you, Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Y'all just made my football weekend just a little bit worse. All right, after all that's said and done, we're going to go to a little top 25 action. We're going to South Carolina, where the South Carolina Gamecocks are hosting the number 3 Georgia Bulldogs at their stadium there in Columbia, South Carolina. And it was kind of close in the first part of it, but as the time went on, Georgia proved to the whole nation that they're number 3 for a reason, and they continue to beat the brake shoes off of the number 24 South Carolina Gamecocks at their own house, 41-17. It was close maybe in the first half, but after that, Georgia rolls with their two running backs. Elijah Holyfield had 76 yards and a touchdown. D. Swift had 64 yards and a touchdown. Harrion had 44 yards and 1 touchdown. Everybody else receiving, I think Fromm threw for 194 yards and a touchdown. Everybody looked good. The defense looked good. Kirby Smart, Kirby Smart said they look like they were supposed to look like. And you know what? This what the number 3 team in the nation is supposed to do. They're supposed to go in there to these teams. I don't care if they're ranked 24 or not. They went in there and they did what they're supposed to do. These are the kind of games that, for years, we were used to. Even since like Ray Goff and Jim Don in those years, there was never a year that the Bulldogs had not lost one game in the year that they were supposed to win, to at least get them to over the hump, to at least be up there for the national championship spot. There's many times that Mark Richt had them in the top 5 or whatever, but they all came for naught because earlier in the year they either lost to Boise State or South Carolina, and then they won. If they won the early games, then it was all depending on if they could beat Tennessee. They couldn't beat Tennessee for a while. Then they started beating Tennessee. Then they couldn't beat Florida for a while. Then they started beating Florida. Then they started beating Tennessee. And then again they would lose to South Carolina and so on and so on. And then some years they would lose to Auburn. And then it was just crazy. And so now you have Kirby Smart coming in there. You got these boys acting. He's got these guys playing ball like they should play ball. They should go in there and destroy these teams that are lesser than them. They should destroy everybody because last year they proved that they should be up there in the top 3 teams in the nation. I think Clemson should not be number 2. That's my opinion. And look, guys, I'm not a Georgia fan. Trust me. I see it when I see a good football team. I'm gonna give them praise. Like Alabama, they have a great football team, and roll Tide, But I'm not gonna go Georgia Bulldogs. But I'm impressed. Kirby Smart and the boys there playing ball. They need to play. So kudos to Georgia. Keep it up. They went on to roll against the Gamecocks, 41-7. Now we're gonna roll through the rest of the top 25 and other notable scores and headlines that came to us throughout the day. All right, here we're gonna roll. We have number 18 Mississippi State taking on Kansas State today. That score is final 31-10. Mississippi State rolls over Kansas State. Number 18, they'll probably remain in number 18 or move ahead in the polls. And next we're rolling through the scores here. We got Duke 2-0 now, beating Northwestern 21-7. That is a final. Final here at Vanderbilt rolls over Nevada 41-10. And we got number 5 Wisconsin was hosting the New Mexico Aggies. I think they're called the Aggies. They win big time 45-14. No contest. I think earlier in the game they were laughing about New Mexico's put up 14, but they roll on and take care of business, no problem. And we're gonna go down to Texas now for where Houston taking on Arizona, and they roll 45-18 in that one. Wake Forest wins big over Towson, 51-20. Number 21 Michigan rolls over Western Michigan, 49-3. We have Purdue losing to Eastern Michigan today, 20-19, a close one at Purdue. And again, we said, as I stated earlier, South Florida nips past Georgia Tech 49-38. We had Army beats Liberty 38-14. It's the final there at West Point. And NC State rolls over Georgia State, like I said before. Boston College whips Holy Cross 62-14. And Oklahoma hosting UCLA today. Oklahoma rolls over UCLA 49-21. We have number 23 Oregon hosting Portland State. They win 62-14. FAU and Air Force. FAU is hosting Air Force. They win 33-27. Number 12 Virginia Tech gets nips by William and Mary 62-17. And Kansas and Central Michigan. Central Michigan is hosting Kansas, and Kansas wins 31-7. Buffalo and Temple play today. Temple's hosting Buffalo, and Buffalo upsets Temple 36-29. I don't know if it's an upset, but they upset them at home. So, and number 1 Alabama goes on to roll against Arkansas State 57-7. No contest there. And it looks like here we got as we go on through the line, Some more. We have number 8 Notre Dame hosting Ball State today, and Notre Dame really slides by them 24-16. Syracuse goes on to roll over Wagner 62-10. Akron beats Morgan State 41-7. East Carolina and North Carolina played today, and East Carolina rolls over their interstate rival North Carolina 41-19. That's an upset, I think. If you ask me, of course, we said earlier, Georgia goes on and rolls past South Carolina 41-17. Howard beat Kent State, or Howard is not upset by Kent State. Kent State rolls 54-14. Navy and Memphis play today, and Navy squeaks by 22-21. Number 4 Ohio State hosted Rutgers 52-3. Hosted Rutgers and won 52-3. No contest there. And Texas Tech douses Lamar 77-0. Tennessee hosted ETSU, and it was no contest with them. It was Tennessee rolls 59-3. Ole Miss takes on Southern Illinois in Mississippi today, and Ole Miss rolls 76-41. I won't say rolls; they gave up 41 points, but they win that one. Number 9 Washington beats North Dakota 45-3. Iowa and Iowa State, and it was Iowa who took their interstate rivals Iowa State out 13-3. Number 22 Miami, Mark Richt's team rolls over Savannah State 77-0. Number 14 West Virginia rolls over Youngstown State 52-17, and Central Florida, number 19 Central Florida beats South Carolina State 38-0. Bowling Green and Maryland beats Bowling Green 45-14, and Bowling Green hosted that event. Oh, and I didn't know the Georgia Southern was playing today, but they beat Massachusetts 34-13, and in at Georgia Southern, Appalachian State beat Charlotte 45-9. Eastern Kentucky did not get past Marshall. Marshall won 32-16. Texas State and Texas Southern 20, Texas State 36. And we have number 2 Clemson barely gets by Texas A&M today, 28-26. I have a couple of highlights for that. I got to speak up after I roll through the rest of the scores here. We have UTSA losing to Baylor 37-20. Wyoming and Missouri. Missouri rolls over Wyoming 40-13. Troy and Florida Atlantic. Troy beats them 59-7. Southern Miss and UL Monroe. Southern Miss loses barely to UL Monroe. They lose at home 21-20. Indiana State and Louisville. Louisville rolls over Indiana State. They were at home at 31-7. And number 11 LSU. The LSU Tigers defeated Southeastern Louisiana 31-0. Louisiana Tech beat Southern University 54-17. Middle Tennessee State and UT Martin. Middle Tennessee squeaks by UT Martin 61-37, and CCU and UAB. And now I'm getting UAB is Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham. That's Roddy White's alma mater, but they end up losing 47-24. Florida State gets by Sanford by 10 points. Oh my! There's a story behind that one too. I'm gonna come back, and we're gonna give you a little word on that one. North Texas and Incarnate Word, whatever that is, 58-16. They roll over them. Minnesota barely nips by Fresno State by a touchdown, 21-14. Northern Illinois loses to Utah 17-6. Western Kentucky loses to Maine 31-28 on their home field. And Colorado State, Mike Bobo's team, old offensive coordinator and quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, they get by Arkansas 34-27, and there's a story behind that. We'll get back to that too. Number 7, Auburn rolls by Alabama State 63-9. Illinois beats Western Illinois 34-14. Indiana beats Virginia 20-16. And Florida is beaten for the first time in many, many years by Kentucky, and Kentucky beat them at home too, 27-16. That is a disaster right there for Florida. We'll have a story behind that too. Bear with me. Old Dominion and FIU. Old Dominion loses 20-28. Utah State and New Mexico State. Utah State rolls 60-13. Oregon State over Southern Utah 48-25. Texas, Longhorns beat Tulsa 28-21. Tulane rolls over Nicholls State 42-17. Oklahoma State takes care of South Alabama 55-13. Cincinnati and Miami of Ohio. Cincinnati takes care of them 21-0. That was at Miami of Ohio. And Pitt loses to Penn State big time 51-6, and that was at Pitt. Stanford, that was number 13 Penn State, rolls over Pittsburgh. You had USC, number 17 USC, and number 10 Stanford. Stanford takes that one 17-3. And UNLV UTEP, UNLV rolls 52-24. San Diego State, Sacramento State, 28-14. BYU in California. Cal beats them 21-18. That is Steve Bartkowski's alma mater. Number 20 Boise State wins 62-7 over UConn. And number 15 Michigan State and Arizona State. That is a final now, and Arizona State has upset the number 15 Michigan State Wolverines, or Michigan State Spartans. I'm sorry, my bad. 16-13. That's the final there. Washington State outlasts San Jose State 31-0. And last but not least, we have number 16 TCU beating SMU Southern Methodist 42-12. That is the recap for all today's scores from the top 25 today and a few other notables. Now we're going to go to talk about a few of the upsets that were almost, or kind of close games that shouldn't have been close in the first place. We had Colorado State roars back to stun Arkansas. Colorado State earns its first win in 2018 in dramatic fashion, roaring back from a 29-7 third quarter deficit to stun Arkansas 34-27 in Fort Collins. The Rams earned the game winner with 8 seconds on the clock when Izzy Matthews dove in from a yard out to ice it from Mike Bobo's crew. Way to go, Mike. Way to go, Bobo. We miss you here in Georgia. I'm glad you're having a little success out there in Colorado State. FSU won, as I told you earlier, but yeah, they barely got past Stanford by 10 points. This is 5 days after the Willie Taggart era got off to a terrible start in a 24-3 loss to Virginia Tech at home. The Seminoles are failing to follow up by taking care of Stanford of the FCS. I'm sorry. Florida State actually trails 23-21 at halftime in this one, raising some serious concerns here in week 2. Stanford quarterback Delvin Hodges is having his way with FSU secondary, throwing for 317 yards and 2 TDs. Terrapins were almost let down, but they pulled through, and that's not really a big deal. The Hawkeyes, they roll over their arch nemesis, Iowa State, today. Now, I don't know why they have their interstate rivalry so early in the season, but that's kind of weird. Colorado spoils Scott Frost's Nebraska debut, as I was trying to say earlier. Scott Frost, when the much anticipated return of Scott Frost to Lincoln was delayed a week by weather, and Colorado rained on the coaches' parade Saturday afternoon. Buffalo's quarterback Steven Montez threw 3 touchdowns, including the game winner to Laviska Shenault Jr. with 1:06 to play. Last-minute drive for Nebraska ended when backup quarterback Andrew Bunch, he was filling in for injured Adrian Martinez, slung a desperate pass out of the side of the end zone as time expired. Way to go, Colorado, for spoiling his debut. I'm sure y'all are happy down there. Notre Dame squeaks by Ball State in their first ever meeting. Shame on you, Notre Dame. I'm not even going to say anything else about that, but y'all know better than that. Of course, Bama goes to blowout when they do what they're supposed to do. They're number 1. Rutgers, Ohio State beat the brake shoes off them, so we're not going to talk about it. That's about it. Purdue lost. They're nobody's. But then Duke loses their starting quarterback to injury since he was knocked out. Saturday's Big Ten matchup when Evanston suffered an apparent injury on a sack in the final minutes of the third quarter. So I don't know what it says. He was favoring his shoulder inside that was driven to the ground, and then he received medical attention on sideline, and he never came back. But I'm sure, so David Cutcliffe said after the game he believed it was a clavicle-related injury for Jones. Of course, the severity won't be known until they get in and do further tests. That's about all, except for last but not least, we have something to report. I reported to you earlier that Kentucky beat the Florida Gators, and we'll bring I'm going to tell you a few things about it. It says after 31 years, it's finally over. Florida fell 27-16 Saturday night to visiting Kentucky, ending the Gators' 31-game winning streak over the Wildcats, the longest active winning streak over an opponent in the FBS. Their last win prior to Saturday night was November 15, 1986, 4 years before Steve Spurrier took over in Gainesville. For some perspective, it's the first win for Kentucky in Gainesville since 1979, which was when Jimmy Carter lived in the White House, if you needed a little more of that perspective to soak in from this moment. Wildcats quarterback Terry Wilson was 11-16 for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the running back Benny Snell rushed for 175 yards to earn Mark Stoops and company the upset in the swamp. Thank you very much, Kentucky, for making their lives a little more miserable. We also have a little thing about the Clemson Tigers and Texas A&M. Apparently, there was a controversial fumble out of the end zone to Clemson's benefit. Otherwise, Texas A&M would have won. Texas A&M scored 7 points early in the fourth quarter to get within 8 of number 2 Clemson Saturday night at Kyle Field, but it could and perhaps should have been just more with just a few minutes left. With 3:55 left in the game, quarterback Kellen Mond found wide receiver Courtney Davis for a 25-yard gain. Davis made some moves and scampered down the sideline. Prior to hitting the pylon, he lost the ball through the end zone, giving Clemson the ball via touchback. Or was it? They say after they take a look, they see you got to see if the ball went out of bounds prior to crossing over the pylon. As I go over the replay myself, it appears that the ball didn't get to the pylon. I think it didn't. It really but I'm only looking from the camera's point of view. I'm not down on the field, but that apparently is a lot closer than it was. But to me, it looked like it wasn't even close. It came up well short. But after that, Kendrick Rogers went on to catch a touchdown pass from Mond with under a minute to go, but the 2-point conversion failed, giving Clemson the 28-26 win in College Station. That about wraps it up for the college scores and highlights from all your top 25 teams and then some. Tune in Sunday morning for the Fantasy League report straight from Rankination. We're gonna tell who to sit them and who to start them, and also we're gonna go over the injury report a little bit and let you decide yourself, not take it just from me personally. So be sure to tune in for that, and thanks for listening to this special broadcast of Rankination Sports Chat, Pure Atlanta Sports Chat. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.